Welcome to Saucy. I have just, I watched an interview last night with Tank and Jay Valentine featuring Jill Scott on R&B Money. And one of the things that I want to say about that interview as I kick off this Saucy podcast episode is the fact that Jill really has created a life and career based on doing things that feel good. That was one of the things that was my biggest takeaway from that interview. And I'm saying all that to say, for those who know, I have just impromptu relaunched Saucy the podcast after 5 or 6 years. And hey, I'm just going to keep it going in 2026. We're going to just see how far we go with this. And I am so grateful that my girl, one of my filmmaking sisters, decided to just jump into this double Dutch flow that I'm in and doing episode number 2 of Saucy. Kimel Fryer. What's up, Kimel?
Hey, what's up? How are you?
Honey, it's 2026, and you are definitely somebody that I know we can have a good conversation each time we do get together. We don't get together all the time, ladies and gentlemen, but when we do, it's always a vibe.
And we talk forever.
Yeah.
We do talk forever.
Yes, and that's probably why we have to space it out. But I would like for us to just chat because we haven't caught up.
Right.
It's been a minute. So this is going to be kind of personal, ladies and gentlemen. Now, of course, we'll probably have to do some things offline. But I just want to find out, first of all, Happy New Year. First of all, let me say that. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And wow, what a year so far.
I know, 6 days in.
6 days in. Do you hear me? And the first full week of this year a lot has happened. But I don't want to talk about the headline news. I want to talk about something that we are passionate about. And that is all things Hollywood, all things film, all things creative. And with that being said, I guess for those who may not know who you are, just kind of give them a little bio on who you are, Kimel, because of course we can brag and do the long bio. But I think for this, you can just do a little, self bio.
Okay. My name is Kimel Fryer. Born and raised from West Tennessee, from Memphis. And the short and skinny of it, I have a law and business background. However, I love film. I love being a creative. Started writing in 2015, and I've directed, shot my first short film in 2021. Produced a feature film called my short film is called Something's Off. My feature film that I produced is called Lifing Like the Movies.
Which is on Tubi and Amazon, right?
Prime? It is on Tubi and Amazon. Yep. And then in 2022, I became the executive director of Indie Memphis, and which has had a film festival in Memphis for a long time.
Yeah.
Yep, for over 20. Yeah. 25 years. I think we got to 27. And then I left in April of 25. And so now I'm focused on pushing my personal stories again. And it's very exciting. It's a little nerve-wracking because some things have changed, since I first started doing it. And a lot has changed since the pandemic. How we connect to each other as creatives. So much has changed. But it's very exciting. It's almost like refinding your voice.
Yes.
Because I stopped writing for about 2-3 years. I hadn't really created my own stuff. So now I took a decolonization class. Shout out to Black Maria Microcinema. She is a woman who is extremely brilliant.
Where's she based out of?
She's based in San Francisco, Bay Area. Okay. And so she actually has a micro cinema, and right now they are They are working through the program Black Film Protest.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's just phenomenal work. I took her decolonization class.
Okay, now you got to pause because you dropping some stuff for me. What's a decolonization? Now I know what the word means, but within the scope of film.
In the scope of film. So to also focus, because I know I've said a whole lot of things, right?
No. This is good. This is good.
But I love to write. That's what my.
And I want to say shout out to you. You got a good 10 years in, and you've done quite a bit within that decade. So shout out to you, girl.
Thank you. But yeah, so I love to write, and there are and specifically I love to write. I love to write and I love to watch horror films.
Oh wow.
And I have always I've always had to kind of look outside of horror films, because in a lot of my stories feature us, right? My stories feature real situations I have been in and things of that nature. However, I have found that a lot of horror films on the Western Hemisphere are told from a white lens. So,
right. Which is why everybody just fell in love with what Jordan Peele was doing, because he started centering horror stories within the Black experience.
Exactly. And so and I will say this, Jordan Peele, I love Jordan Peele. Not just do I love him for that, I love him for bringing a subset of horror, which is my favorite, psychological horror.
Yes.
Like that is a subgenre of horror that is my favorite. When we talk about Alfred Hitchcock, like
yes, and Twilight Zone, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Yes. Like people always call him like the godfather of horror, but he was a masterminded psychological horror, and that is my favorite. Like when you have to leave a film and you're kind of nervous, like, well, this isn't going to happen to me, right? Like, let me tell you, to this day,
I love it. It's all about the shower curtain for me. I'm still stuck on that. I will do clear shower curtains because of that. Okay.
Oh man, I mean,
I want to see them coming. I want to see them coming. Okay. Oh my God.
My mom is scarred from birds.
Honestly, that was another one I was about to say. Birds too. Don't let the birds start gathering in a tree, honey. Oh, okay. Yeah. They're talking to each other and they finna swoop. That's all I know.
But even like, I mean, I could go on and on and on. But I'll say this: like when it comes to even like his Alfred Hitchcock's first film was basically his version of Jack the Ripper. And it was a silent film, and even then, like you can just see how he becomes who he becomes, like from that first film. Like it's so interesting. And I'm so glad that you know, like when we think about horror and we think about like, you know, body horror, think about slashers. I mean, like, you know,
honestly, Kimel, when I think of horror, slashers are part of that. But I grew up dating myself. Happy birthday to me. You know, I just turned a big 60. And so I kind of came up in the era of the horror that was very spiritual.
Yes.
So Rosemary's Baby, you know, Damien, all of that, Omen, girl, honey. So
let's say real quick. My mom, so when I think when I turned 10, right, that's around the time I started embracing horror, and I started like reading, I started reading these different horror novels and stuff. And my mom was like, oh, you don't know horror. Like I know horror. And she's a scaredy cat, right? And so she just knew I was going to be scared out of my wits end when I watched The Exorcist.
Oh my God. You were not?
I was not. I was not scared. I think there was like one part that I like jumped, and that was at the end when he jumps out the window. Because I guess in my head I thought that the little girl was gonna be saved, and I don't know. I thought the spirit was gonna go on about his way, and he's like, "No, I'm taking somebody."
Oh my goodness!
So as
Speaking
a kid, I was like, oh my God. But I wasn't scared. Most of the film,
seriously,
I was not
did
scared.
you see The Bad Seed? Did you ever see The Bad Seed or
I watched
Rosemary
Bad
Baby?
Seed recently, but you want to know the film that did take me out?
What?
The Omen. That next week she took me to Hollywood Video. Yes, I'm aging myself. Yes.
Was it? No, okay, that's what I'm saying. I thought the first one was Omen.
She showed me The Exorcist first.
Oh, yeah, Omen was the one. Yeah, I don't think I ever saw The Exorcist because I grew up in church and they definitely didn't want us to see nobody's head turning around and all like that. But Omen,
Yeah.
The Bad Seed, and Rosemary Baby.
Listen, the Omen,
Honey.
Rosemary's Baby didn't scare me too much, but
all of that
starts off with Bible verses, right?
Yes.
I had never seen that before. I'd never seen a film start off with Bible verses. I go check it. It's there, right? Like the actual verse, all of that is there. And the film itself, I think, benefited from not doing too much, unlike its remake. I felt like the remake of The Omen did a bit too much or tried to be a little too technical, and so you lost some of that scare element with the remake that had Julia Stiles in it.
Well, first of all, I cannot believe I'm even discussing these movies. That's how scared I was at the time. Okay, like how dare I even say it wasn't? So when the slashers came, my brother consumed that, but Poltergeist, no, I'm not doing none of that. I'm not doing nothing. No, I'm not trying to. No, we're not doing otherworldlies and all that.
Poltergeist, I'll say this. I think if they do another horror remake, they probably need to remake that one because I think it would have been scarier if the special effects were updated. But when I watched it, that was always kind of the thing that kind of took me out of the film. But the premise itself, it was a good story, and the premise itself was scary. But it was the special effects, and I mean, you do what you can in the time period that you're in, right?
And mind you, at that time, what they did was next level. I mean, it's so funny when you
and I acknowledge that too, right? So that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think. I don't want it to be taken as like criticism of Poltergeist.
No, but you're just saying being not from that time and looking at it through different eyes, through different technology. I can remember because I had never seen Space Odyssey until I was in film school. And when I tell you I struggled to watch it because I was like, it's like old school Planet of the Apes.
Yeah. Or the original Dune. The original Dune is
the original Dune. It's like the technology, the camera angles, but the set design. You're looking at all of this, and it's giving Ben-Hur. It's giving the parting of the Red Sea with Moses. Without today's cinematography and special effects and all of that. So, but there are certain movies though that I only want to watch in the way they made it from that period of time, from I would say during the Hollywood studio system of the early 20th century. Like there are certain movies like I only want to see black and white. There are certain ones I only want to see. I think like a movie like E.T. I don't want to see that modernized. Like I want to see like Close Encounters of the Close Encounters of the what was that? Close Encounters.
I know what you're talking about. I know what you're
when it comes to those kinds of things, a Terminator, I like.
They've updated Terminator like 50 times.
Yeah, but it's like I like sometimes watching those movies through a nostalgic lens. Even like you said, Alfred Hitchcock. Don't modernize the birds for me, please. Don't.
And I'll also say this too, right? Like I'm one of those people where I can appreciate a good remake, but you don't have to do it. And I actually prefer it if you're not gonna take a deeper spin, or if you're not going to develop something that wasn't already there. I'm actually one of those people that's just kind of like leave it alone.
Yes.
Honestly. And so, and it's not to say I don't think that it couldn't be modernized or something like that, but like I prefer the original Omen to the remake, because the original Omen doesn't have a whole lot of crazy special effects. They have some,
Yeah, but
but
it's narrative based. It's very much narrative based.
exactly. And because they kept it kind of practical, it stands the test of time. You can show the Omen to somebody tomorrow who's never seen it, and I'll be shocked if they're not scared, if that's the first time they've seen it, because it does. Like, sometimes you just need that. And I'll also say this too, right? Like, I appreciate a good remake. Dune. I brought up Dune. I love David Lynch's version of Dune. I do. I love the dialogue of his version more so than the newer versions of Dune. However, I will also say this too, right? The visual storytelling that director has tapped into, that Dennis, has tapped into with Dune. I mean, that wasn't even available back then.
Right. There are
So
certain
ones. Kind of got to have both,
Yeah. Particularly if you can maintain the strong storytelling, the narrative aspect of it, and then you just modernize the visual storytelling with today's technology and things of that nature. I think that that's a good look. Yeah. It's so funny because as you were talking, I was just thinking through the decades of film, particularly even with Black cinema. And it took me being later in life to even know and learn about the Black filmmakers like Oscar Micheaux and those who predated Black exploitation, or of the 70s, in Porgy and Bess and all like that. But even then, some of those films, like, I can't imagine seeing Porgy and Bess. I mean, you can modernize it, but the music and the pageantry and the scale of some of these early movies, thousands of actors.
Like, I think if somebody, I mean, I don't think she would do it, but like, I think if somebody were like, "Oh, we need to remake Daughters of the Dust," I think we would riot. I know I would. I'd be like, "Absolutely not!
No, do not.
Do
not touch that.
Anything.
Do not touch these values. Do not touch them. Do not touch.
They're treasures. Leave them be.
Skills of the sheep. Do not touch. It's certain ones you just leave them in the canon. In the canonized film.
You know what I just thought about? Imagine if somebody tried to approach Spike Lee about remaking School Days.
First of all, do not touch.
First of all. But no,
I can't imagine anything. Certain films, they're art.
Exactly. Well, all films are art, right?
No.
You don't think all films are art?
We're gonna split hairs on that.
Oh,
we're gonna split hair. See, there is levels to visual storytelling, and I guess
I said I can agree with that.
And so there are certain people who approach cinema as an art form, and they create one-of-a-kind pieces. Then you have certain people who create movies and films that can be duplicated, sequeled out, remade with even better interpretations or poor copies. But the ones
commercial, you're talking about the more commercial,
correct?
Almost like wide.
It can be, almost even paint by numbers. Like you just fill in the blank, and you fill the canvas. But there are some people who are like, I think I'm saying his name right, Basquiat. Like, did I say his name? Right. You can't yes, you can throw paint against the wall and kind of give that whatever, but it's not going to be the energy. It's like a Jill Scott song. Like, I know Jill's going to come out with her new album. And in that same interview I was talking about at the top of the show, when she was sharing in that particular interview about her songwriting process, it is so intuitive and spiritual that yes, a lot of us can write a great song, get it on the records, chart it, all the things, but it still won't be a Jill Scott song, even if it's in the same vein. You can go on Suno right now. Okay, give me a song that sounds like Jill Scott. But it won't, but that's what I mean by, I think, okay.
Well, and I guess like when we're talking about films too, I want to be clear. I'm not talking about like the word that content that's thrown around, right?
Oh my, yeah, which is part of the visual storytelling that people are doing. Yeah.
And I'll say that like when it comes to film, there's a certain intentionality that comes with it, right? There has to be when you're talking about directing, when you're talking about the screenplay, when you're talking about the cinematography, like there has to be, and there's so many other elements, right, that they are also involved with that. I do think that when we talk about film as art, whether we're talking about like a Spike Lee, Ava DuVernay, or whether we're talking about Jordan Peele, or whether we're talking about I don't even know who I would compare. Who would I say?
Like Julie Dash. I mean,
Julie. Come on now, it's Julie.
But
like, okay, like, or when we're talking about
Cassie Lemons,
I'll say okay. Will Packer is for more commercially, widespread films and stuff like that, right? There's still, even though his films might be more geared towards wider audiences, there's still a certain intentionality, right, when it comes to films, regardless of the genre, regardless of what it was shot on, stuff like that. Like there's a certain intentionality that comes with film that doesn't come with content.
Here it is.
I struggle with there's some conflation sometimes of the two. And I don't want to be that snob, right? I don't want to be that person that's like, no,
I was about to say that.
Because you want people to be curious, you want people to tap into visual storytelling and whatever access they can, but also understand, when it comes to making a film, there's a level of intentionality, and it doesn't mean that you have to have $1 million, right, to pull it off, but it does mean that you have to think about those elements.
Here it is. I think, okay, let's take it back to the fact that you yourself have come from a different sector, law and business, and yet your love of writing showed up a decade ago, and you've been disciplined in your approach of studying film and movie making to the point that you ended up heading a film festival. And the reason I'm about to bring that in, because I know that when it came to vetting and screening movies for selecting at a film festival for exhibition, you see all of those different level. Okay, now how do I want to say this? You see the various levels of intentionality that comes in the filmmaking process. And I know that there are people who have submitted projects to you who probably intended well, but they didn't execute well, where someone else was more deliberate and it shows up in the finished product.
Yes. And I will say this too, right? Like when I was at Indie Memphis, right, the programming team and how the programming team was structured handled those very well. And every now and then they would ask my opinion, but for the most part, we had well documented screeners, stuff like we had programmers, we had the AD, artistic director, and we also had managers, like programming managers, stuff like that. But I will say, I mean, it's part of the process with learning, right? Like my first short film, there were some things I was very intentional about, and then there were some things I did sloppily. right?
Now that's
They're
part of
just
the
one.
journey. Yeah, that's part of the journey. That's
It's
part
part
of
of the
the
journey,
yeah.
right? And so I'm not gonna say that, I'm not gonna say that my short film is like a Basquiat, right? Like I'm not gonna say that, or like I hold a light to Julie Dash at all. But I do think when we are analyzing it, I do think I try to toe the line and making sure, hold on.
She is being a mother in this moment, ladies and gentlemen. I told her, honey, I get it. Come on, are they okay?
They are a mess. So,
Well, one of
so
the things I think that I'm even
but
trying to
I just try to. I will say. I think I definitely there's always intention. There's always like different levels that you'll see, and I will say this too, right? A first time filmmaker could come up with something and blow your mind,
that is true. That is true.
right? And
And have you ever noticed that they tend to also be having a high discipline in another area? And they just really transfer that level of precision into the filmmaking craft.
right, like like Raven Jackson, who was the filmmaker behind All Dirt Roads, Taste of Salt. And I know that she's working on a whole lot of phenomenal things. I thought it was so interesting that she had such a passion for photography, and that made so much sense once I once I figured it out. I was like, oh, okay, so this is film
She was
is
already
really
a visual storyteller. She was already telling stories
he
through
was
visual.
already a visual storyteller.
Yeah.
Film is just an extension of that,
Mhm.
you know.
Correct.
Um, and so yeah, I definitely think that's definitely part of it.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up because, okay, for those who oftentimes, like you said, elevating past the new term of content creators, which has leveled in against some elitists within the television and film industry. Like we're now all content creators, we're all creating content. And
Yeah,
the
and it's
answer
like
at the base level, it is content that has been created for consumption.
yeah,
At the end of the day, that's the message.
exactly.
However, when you say you're graduating from school, and is it from kindergarten or is it a PhD? You know what I'm saying? There's levels to
Right.
this. But I wanted to bring out something when you just talked about that young lady who was a photographer who segued into filmmaking. I think even within the filmmaking journey, if you're coming to it, which filmmaking in and of itself, television as well, is a visual medium,
Mm-hmm.
that oftentimes if you're coming from that angle, you can master filmmaking from a very with more intentionality than sometimes if myself, I started with the pen. I started as a writer. I started as a singer, songwriter, poet who ended up, writing some plays and writing a movie because all of it was in my mind, that when it came to learning how to tell stories cinematically or visually, there within the confines of filmmaking, which I know you're talking about the intentionality of knowing those elements, it can be a learning curve. And I think that sometimes people who just see stories in their mind and think, okay, I can go get a camera and tell the story, that they don't understand that there's so many elements that have to be established really to make a film.
Right. And I guess I encourage anyone to pick up the camera. If you want to make content, do it. Like the way that new media is developing in like real time, and just the way that technology is developing, and especially because I have a background in business and law, right? So for me to even be able to manage to write and do things in the creative space is almost like completely contradictory of what I was classically trained in. Well, it is. It is.
Right.
So I'm never going to be the one to say, don't do this, or you have to do this a certain way. But, don't be afraid to keep asking questions. Don't be afraid to keep learning. Because I'll say this too, right? Some of those content creators, maybe it started with them just picking up a camera and saying something funny here or there. And now they might be putting whole seasons on their Instagram, right?
Country Wayne, can we say that? Country, but even before Country Wayne, let's give it up for the Vine. Let's do it for the Vine. Everybody was doing those skits as early as the Vine, the app that was the Vine, and when it translated over to Snapchat and then Instagram that came along, a lot of the storytelling fell off because it became more image based. But IGTV. Was that around 2017, 2018 when IGTV was on right before the pandemic?
Yeah.
But I hate that they didn't push that, because there were some storytellers and some filmmakers who were trying to move into vertical then.
Well, and I think there were some that are still pushing forward. So like,
verticals are the thing now. It's the rage.
You remember what was her name? It was Katie, and she had this show on Instagram where she would show like the many sides of her personality when she was dealing in relationships. Well, she has a show on Peacock now.
Does she really?
On the same thing. Yeah. And so, it can evolve, and there are even some people who were content creators, people who are still content creators, who have been able to dip into acting and directing and stuff.
Come on now, we got to talk about Issa Rae and that whole Awkward Black Girl and how she took that from YouTube and part of
Awkward Black Girl was, to my understanding, I'm a big Issa fan, but to my understanding, Awkward Black Girl, I think, was her third.
It was her third one, because I used to follow her
web series.
My God, but the one that I love that didn't catch fire was the one that was about church. Oh my God.
Oh man.
Because Kev on Stage, he was also in that one. And as a matter of fact, I saw an interview they did recently, and he talked about that she gave him his first chance, I think, acting in that kind of way.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I can't think of the name of it at this moment, but it was hilarious. Me being a church girl, it was hilarious, just her take on things. But yeah, she had come out of film school, I think, and was trying to find her way, as many people do. And, YouTube made it happen. But Black and Sexy TV, matter of fact, Numa, baby, when I tell you, what is it, Roomy Lover Friends, was my series when it came to Black and Sexy TV. They had a whole universe. So when Ava DuVernay, who had been a publicist in the film space, started doing her films independently, I didn't see I Will Follow till years later, but I saw Middle of Nowhere as soon as it came out. And I happened to actually be living in LA at the time, working on a master's. And I went, I'll go to a matinee just, because I love matinees. And I decided to, when I saw that Middle of Nowhere was playing, I went to a matinee, not too far from Sunset Boulevard. And when the lights came, first of all, I had cried so hard in that movie. It was so many different emotional levels.
It was so gut-wrenching.
Oh my God. I was crying. But when the lights came up, Kimel, and I have a picture to show it, and I last year I was doing hashtag snapshots of CBT on Facebook. And that was one of the pictures that I posted, and I never ever post because I had cried so hard to my face was swollen. So when the lights came up, it turned out the theater, let's say curator, was like, and we have the director and the cast and the audience. Girl, I said, oh,
oh wow.
And I ended up, and I was, girl, when I was so emotional. And Matthew Cherry, remember him? Matthew Cherry was and he was hot on Twitter. It was quite a few of us when Twitter was Twitter back in, Black Twitter.
It's still Twitter. Her mama called it Twitter. I'm calling it Twitter.
Yeah. So when Black Twitter was ruling, when Black Twitter was ruling in the early, in the early.
You're right. It has the dynamics have completely shifted. It's not the same
But I tell you, but it was so amazing to me because one of the things that they did, particularly those who were moving in that indie space in LA, online, digitally, vertically, even then, and this we're talking the late like 2008, 2009, 2010, 2012, that time when Hulu and Netflix were coming into their own and Redbox was starting to fall off. It was during when all of that was happening and YouTube was getting past cats. Because cats ruled, honey. Cats used to rule YouTube.
They did.
I remember how that was happening. So even like you said, right, pre-pandemic, when the Vine had caved in and you had Instagram before TikTok came on the scene and IGTV was in place, and then the pandemic hit. But can we give a shout out to the American precursor to the vertical microdrama movement? And can we say Quibi?
Yeah, Quibi. Although there was a Black woman, there's a Black woman on Instagram who said that she was posting vertical dramas. For Quibi.
Oh yeah, it was a lot of see that most people don't understand vertical dramas, and those things have been around as soon as verticals came into play. The difference between the vertical dramas of that young lady and like Country Wayne, who's been doing it since right before the pandemic, because that's how he said he saved his family and all the things because he did verticals. And all the people who have been doing verticals and skits and comedy skits on the Vine who shifted over to IG was the fact that Quibi was the first that I remember American-based platform dedicated to verticals.
I was so sad when it folded. I was so sad.
And I was heartbroken.
And he did turn it. He did turn it from what it was on Quibi to an actual feature film. So.
Yeah, because one of the ones was the Liam Hemsworth brother. That was one of the ones. And I think Hulu or Roku, one of them, Peacock or something, purchased that one.
Okay.
So that catalog got absorbed by some other players.
Because Kevin Hart, his film about trying to become an action star with John Travolta.
Girl, but I tell you, that was hilarious.
Oh,
that was hilarious.
Hilarious. It was so.
And the one that I'm talking about that was with the Hemsworth brother, Liam. Is that not Liam? What's his name? Not her. Not Thor.
Okay, so it's not Chris.
The brother. He was. It was, girl. When I tell you, I loved it. It was so good, but the thing that they said was the downfall, which is, of course, Asia, they took that vertical thing because they live on their smartphones. Let's establish that. They've been doing this a decade. And they have had plenty of apps and platforms fully dedicated to that form of storytelling, which is very akin to Korean soap operas. But the difference between Quibi is that Quibi was paying Hollywood money.
Oh, got you.
They were investing the same amount of money that you would put into a feature film. That was the reason
Yeah.
But for vertical to succeed, what the Korean, I'll put like this, Real Short, Drama Box, all of them have learned is you really have to make it like a soap opera, a cheesy soap opera with a cliffhanger. It is a form of storytelling. It is very akin to daytime soap operas, the kind of stuff that Tyler Perry does, because he's very episodic with those high dramas, cliffhangers. I mean, you just have to write it in a style that fits the format. It has to be bite-sized. It has to be 60 to 30 seconds. I mean, 60 to 90 seconds. Of course, you can go longer, but typically the way people engage with smart devices, they're not sitting there, on the go like that. I even got I got Drama Box on my phone right now. And a lot of times I'm like, sometimes I just want a cheesy storyline, but I've been studying it though a little bit more now because Do you ever have you got sucked into the melodramas, to the, or they call it the microdramas? Have you ever got?
Not too much. I saw that because I was addicted I was addicted to Quibi.
I love Quibi.
And then when Quibi crashed, I got pulled into, everything else. And so I have been noticing there are some that are coming that are, it's gaining popularity. And even my mom is addicted to one, but that one comes on Facebook. But like every time it drops, she is like, oh my God, I got to watch my stories. I was like, oh my God.
And that's what, because Facebook is the reason I got addicted to Drama Box, because Real Short is Asian based, and there's a couple other ones like that, but Drama Box kind of has become more, I'll just say, not Asian with some white actors, no black stories yet. And I'd be like, where we at? I'd be looking like, where the black people? But as of right now, we hadn't dedicated an app, because that's the difference. We're on these other platforms. We don't own the platform. Well, of course, fan base, Isaac the Third, he's partnered with a production company out of Atlanta, which of course he's based out of Atlanta, so that they can literally start creating verticals specifically on the fan base platform, because that's the difference. We don't have a app dedicated to that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I think one of the reasons why is because, in my opinion, we're still chasing the Hollywood dream of the studio system or the studio approved projects, till we're not looking that the Hollywood has shifted and exploded and imploded. I mean, it's a good thing because it's forcing the industry to grow. Yeah. But I think that as Black filmmakers, we're still chasing the dream from 20 years ago.
I think Hollywood is still finding its footing. And when I say that, I mean the entertainment industry is always going to be one of those industries that is going to be on the forefront of change, right? More so than other industries.
That is correct.
But when you think about the fact that we had COVID, and yes, I have to say the C word, COVID.
Yes, we did.
Everything. And Hollywood was not an exception. And then you had the strikes. And then after the strikes, everyone's like, okay, now we just got to wait for things to get back normal. But has normal ever come back before we see a different change?
It will never be back again. We're in a whole nother.
And now you got AI, right? And, and everything like that. And so all industries change, but I think unlike other industries, the entertainment industry has been subject to rapid change in a very, very quick amount of time. Because even when we're talking about like 5 years, right? Because COVID hit in
2020.
So now 6, about to be 6.
Yeah, we hit the 6 years
very quickly for the industry to inherently change to a point to where people are questioning what's the new normal. Like that's very quick. Like when you think about all of the big things that have happened year after year after year since 2020. So I wouldn't say it's Black filmmakers. I think a lot of filmmakers are figuring out, okay, what's next. And one thing that caught my eye when I went to Sundance in January 23, and the NEA, National,
which is thank you.
Sorry, I thought about it when I said it. I was like, wait a minute, let me explain. So the National Endowment of the Arts paired with Sundance, and they had done a study about mergers and acquisitions then, right? Like they were doing a study about that back then. So I want to say that because a lot of people, and I'm not saying that people shouldn't have opinions on what's going on, but this is not something that's new, right?
Yeah, this has been in the works for about 5 years.
Well, when you look at older films, right? Like what happened to Tombstone Pictures, right? There are so many, and that's just one. There are so many other studios and even like smaller distribution companies. Maybe they weren't as big as Universal, or Warner Brothers or, Disney, but they had a history, right, of making films, distributing them. And because of mergers and acquisitions, it has kind of changed things.
Yes.
So even back then, there was a study, it's probably still available on the internet. But it was a study talking about like what are things we need to look out for, and how are these mergers and acquisitions, how are they impacting the industry? And one thing that caught my eye with one of those bullet points was, if this trend continues, then filmmakers may end up kind of reverting back to a more independent model of filmmaking.
Yes, that's exactly where we are.
That's where we are,
Yep. This is taking us back to the 80s. It's really taking us back to the 80s, late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah. And even the 90s, when you think about it, like the guerrilla type of filmmaking where you are, listen, I'm going to make this film by any means possible, right?
Yeah. Why Spike Lee was able to succeed. Him and
later,
Spike and Quentin Tarantino definitely benefited from that lull.
Yeah, so I think, do I also can't blame any filmmaker that also does, because that is looking for a more structured path. There are still films being made.
There are going to always be films being made. My point is that we're still looking for the studio system, which is collapsing, to give us the license to become filmmakers.
I would argue that I know more Black creators that are not looking for that, because
maybe it's generational then.
Yeah, I would say this, right? I think more young filmmakers, I would say definitely Black creatives that have historically not been right in that studio system. I've seen more of them pivoting quickly.
Yeah, they do pivot quickly. That is true.
Yeah, because you can't miss what you never had, right? if you didn't have a deal with these studios, if you didn't have a deal with the streamers anyway, you can still hope for it, you can still strive for it, but are you gonna be upset when it doesn't come through? No, because you're gonna probably pivot yourself. And I see a lot of Black creatives, positioning themselves that way to make their film, to make their content, to make their podcast, regardless, because they said that anyway.
I think too, because when I just said generationally, it is a generational line. There are a lot of people above the age of, I'll say 40. I'm not even going to say below 40 and above. There is a high level of resentment that either they didn't get in the door in time, or that the door shut on them as soon as they got in, and the opportunities that they did receive did not measure up to which had been given prior to.
Interesting.
Yeah. So to be able to say, I have to now give up an ideology of how I was going to be seen as a filmmaker or a screenwriter or television executive or whatever it is within the industry, music, whatever, and it's no longer sanctioned by the system, whether that's music, television, film, fashion, sports. It's but then there are those who have been artists at heart, who will just take a can of paint and do it regardless, and they're the forever youngs who never, I guess, they were going to create regardless. They didn't need that is true. I could see that. I could definitely see that. So I would like your opinion then, since we are talking about Black filmmakers, and I take your point. I take your point about there are a lot of Black creators who are getting it done, and they're getting it done very well. But how many of those do you think are getting it done because they also went to film school and they got six-figure debt?
Right. I mean, that's a good question.
Because there's a different training that you all have that I think older generations, I mean, of course there were those who went to film school and all like that, but I think now it's like a lot of people are literally trained in this space,
Yeah.
regardless of their racial identity. It's a lot of people who went to film school or some form of formal training.
Right. And there's more knowledge that's accessible,
That is true.
out there. Not discouraging anyone from not getting the degree in whatever they want, but there is more knowledge available definitely now than if there were, if we want to compare the 90s or the 80s, right? So I think that I will say one thing too. I think people are, I think what I have seen is that you have people figuring out ways to make their films, but even like those with traditional film backgrounds, like still utilizing those skills, but do those skills also help in other ways? Like I think it was what's her name? Because I'm thinking about it now, I'm like, what's her name? Her name's her name is Chelsea, and she was a screenwriter. She was in the writers' rooms, if I recall, black screenwriter, and but she's been doing really good at social media, and she even like posted recently that she posted recently on Threads that she's not sure what holds for her in Hollywood, but right now she's good at social media and she's okay with that, and she's using her skills, right? Her
storytelling,
using her storytelling to push forward, not necessarily the Hollywood model, but pushing forward the scripts and things that she wants to help produce, right? So she's might be, what does that look like? She's still figuring it out. But instead of going towards the typical Hollywood mold, or like trying to be in a writer's room or something like that, she's taken a step back and kind of like what we talked about, right? Like looking at, okay, as an independent person, what can I do? Even if these skills are not necessarily the skills that are putting money on the table, right? Can I use these skills in other ways? So
I saw a LinkedIn post about corporate America looking for storytellers from this industry because they need storytellers, and they literally are pitching them for storytellers, brand strategists, because they want to be able to effectively create narratives that have human connection. And true enough, poets, screenwriters, TV writers, we know how to songwriters, we know how to pull heartstrings. We know how to do it.
That's interesting, because every time I log on LinkedIn, it's something about AI taking jobs. So I wish I would have come across
the reason why
so much
God, this is so good. Okay, the article that I was reading was about, I think it was a Wall Street Journal, or it was either Wall Street Journal or Washington Post, one of those. And they were talking about the new trend that corporate America is moving toward, looking for storytellers, because now the AI bubble has popped. And it's leading to what they call AI slop. It is where they have regurgitated, because AI, these LLMs, these learning language machines, only can create what you put in, and it's only pulling from the wealth of information that's online. And highly creative people are not just dumping their content online to train AI. So the average person is really the only thing that's feeding it. So what they've learned is that the narratives and the human connection that they need for customers, for brands, it's not happening because the AI content doesn't have the secret sauce.
A non-human. How to use a non-human. I say this too, right? I'm not inherently against AI. I do think that there's a bit too much dependence on it.
Yes.
I don't necessarily agree with all the ways that it's like, I think there's some good that could be done.
It's a tool. It should be used as a tool.
Like a tool. Like people using it to replace their brains. It's like, what in the world? What are we coming to?
Yeah.
Or trying to replace, or trying to replace creatives. If I see another AI photo,
Okay, let me tell you, because that was one of the things that came. I keep referencing that interview because it was so powerful, because they were talking about Jill Scott's approach to songwriting and how that conversation came up when Tank and Jay Valentine was on the Breakfast Club, and they talked about AI in the music industry, and they were like, okay, let them do what they do. And Jill said, some of the music sounds good. A lot of it just sounds, and that's what they said, that's what it does. It sounds perfect. Where when it comes to artistry, which is why I'm going back to art, film, movie, cinema, it's the human imperfection. It's the flaw of humanity. When you have to dwell in a story that pulls the heartstring. So if you have it too slick and polished, if you have it too, it's almost like animation.
Yeah. Well, it's like, and
but even with animation, Toy Story pulls on your heartstring because they do some amazing storytelling.
Right.
Yeah.
But I guess that's the thing though, right? Like with AI, you get this false sense of perfection, and nothing is to me. I don't necessarily love the perfect things. I like the imperfect things. I like to see the humanity in pictures. And, I like to see films that are messy, right?
Yes.
Horror, drama. I had to give someone my top 4 recently. And you know what my top 4 films are? I mean, they change.
Okay, well, what are they today? What are your top 4 today?
Right, because they might be different tomorrow. But today, my top 4 are His House, horror film that's on Netflix.
Okay.
The Shining. The Lion King and Blue Valentine.
Wow.
If you haven't watched Blue Valentine and you're a Ryan Gosling fan.
Yes, I saw Blue Valentine. I like that one. It wasn't a horror movie though.
It's so heartbreaking.
It's a heartbreaking film though.
It's beautifully shot. And
beautifully.
It's so heartbreaking, but so real. Like you could tell like how real this film was. And Michelle Williams, who, I mean, I'm shocked that she even agreed to do it because she lost her partner, Heath Ledger. She lost him a year before she shot that.
Yeah.
And but
that was probably therapy for her.
May have been. I don't know. It's an interesting film. But I say it to say, like, none of those are like really happy ending type of films if we think about it. Even The Lion King, like, okay, yes, Simba is happy, but he had to kill his uncle, and his dad and his uncle killed his dad. Like, like even
it's heartbreaking. It's
a rough film, right?
But yeah, it is.
But but there's beauty in the non-perfection, and the imperfections. And I feel like with AI and an over dependence on it,
that part,
I almost wonder if we are, as a society, trying to trick ourselves into attaining something perfect. And that's just not, for me, that's not the meaning for my life. That's not something that drives me. I'm not necessarily trying to get something that's perfect, right? Like, I want something that's useful. I want to benefit other people. I want to put out stories that I'm proud of, but my stories that I'm putting out are about deeply flawed people. And if I it's almost like you're gypping yourself to a degree, when you strip away that humanity, that imperfection. So
you're missing the beauty of life when we do that, because
exactly.
And I do understand that there's a polarization that's happening in the world, and part of that is the need to come across as flawless, and then there's another part of us that is like, I just want to, I think Kendrick Lamar, and I thought it was hilarious because when he, a couple of years ago, he had a song about he wanted to see the stretch marks.
Yes.
Because, there is a level of when it's too perfect, like we're talking about with the AI photos or even the songs where it's just so perfect. And the humanity is the frailty of us that if you allow it to shine through, therein lies the beauty. Speaking about the top four, and I think I'm gonna do four, may have five, but let me tell you about the movies. When you talked about yours, I think it also lends to what type of stories you and I both like to tell. My number one movie is Love Jones. For all the reasons, all the reasons. I'm a poet. I'm a singer. I'm a hopeless romantic, and I love Black love. And to put it in a poetry setting, come on, all the things.
It's
okay, and it's photography. Come on, and it was shot beautifully, written well.
It was such a love letter to Chicago and Chicago. Art. I mean,
it was the art scene. It was a love letter to anywhere Black art is represented and appreciated, and I think that's why it resonated across the country, because we always have these enclave of Black artists who sometimes feel like they're not seen. And that beauty, in the beauty of that, they captured it beautifully, and I love that movie. Another one was really Poetic Justice, and most people don't. Poetic Justice and Jason's Lyric, but Jason's Lyric even more. So I would say Love Jones, then Jason's Lyric. And what I loved about Jason's Lyric, which of course Alan Payne, Jada Pinkett, was really Lisa Nicole Carson's character. She was in love. She was dating Tretch's character, and there's the imperfection of their relationship, just opposed to against the budding new love of Jada and Alan Payne's character. To me, Jason's Lyric was, of course, the main characters, but it's like a musician. It's the darker chords that carry the lighter chords. And it was the secondary love relationship to me that was like the baseline of that movie. And I'll never forget when she was when Jada's character was sharing with Lisa Nicole Carson's character about their love experience, and she said, she was cooning and moaning she wanted that. And then Trish just rolls up in a hoopty or whatever like that, and she said love, and she said love calls. I will never forget that line. Because it was the total opposite of the softness that Alan Payne was showing Jada's character. But she was more entrenched and anchored in a long-term relationship with this rougher element.
Yeah.
I loved that part of that movie, but that those two were love calls. Another movie that always spoke to me that really made me want to begin to be a filmmaker was October Sky.
Oh, yeah, that's a nice one. Yeah.
I would cry in that movie because I'm like, everybody has a dream that's out of this world. Everybody has a dream that's out of this world. And even when the minds are calling you, like the thing that everybody has committed their life to, even died because of, you can still have your dream that's beyond the sky. October Sky. I cried about the little boys. And then the other one that made me want to be a actual show enough script writer was Book of Eli. Now I done seen 100 Denzel Washington movies. First of all, I love apocalyptic movies. I like Johnny Mnemonic. I like Gattaca. I like those old school, Logan's Run, Blade Runner. I love those, Demolition Man. But to put an apocalyptic Denzel Washington with a Bible, sword fighting through the desert like Doom, it was so much to love. And then he turned out to be the Bible.
That is interesting. I would not have taken you as a sci-fi.
Oh my God, I love sci-fi. I love sci-fi. That's the mix for me.
Not think you as a sci-fi girl.
I love one of my other favorite movies that's a bonus is Fifth Element. I can watch Fifth Element right now, like the first time.
I might have to add that. See, that's why it's hard for me to choose 4. I love the Fifth Element. Like
Baby, everything about the Fifth Element. Everything.
When I say Chris Tucker, Bruce,
baby, his whole persona in that movie.
I love
the gender fluidity.
Yes, the campiness.
Oh my God.
I will say that's one thing I do miss. I miss when films were not afraid to be campy. Like I watched not too long ago, As Death Becomes Her. And it was such a fun film. Like, you know, like it was just so campy and just so unserious sometimes.
Yes. Girl.
Streep is, I mean, I'm like, okay, what can this woman not do? What can she not do?
Which I think is why some of us have leaned into streaming platforms, because they do provide you more, even if it's not domestic. There are filmmakers and TV makers and content creators and visual storytellers across the world who will go campy without an apology.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and not even just that, you know, when it comes to what's trending in theaters, people are showing up to the older films, the campy films. They're showing up to those. The new box office, the new films that are like just hitting the box office are not the I won't say they're not the ones that make money, but it's just not as much of a sure thing. Versus an older film that maybe some generations haven't seen on the big screen and they do want to see it, right? So I
can't say that the last 10, if not 20 years, it was definitely the revenge of the nerds. Hollywood was controlled by the nerds. Every comic book they ever read, every toy they ever played, every video game they ever loved, and
but let's think about it though. Okay, let's think about it.
Now, I'm not mad at it now, but I'm saying Hollywood was definitely a revenge of the nerds.
Yes,
they got the girl at the end,
but they also weren't like previous comic films too. So, like when you think about like Batman, okay, that
was a nerd. That was the nerdy geeky guy who collected comic books.
Think about Michael Keaton Batman versus Christian Bale Batman. Like let's think about those two. And mind you, Michael Keaton, like we're talking about the era where you had Danny DeVito as the Penguin.
I'm gonna tell you that was not, and Jack Nicholson as Joker.
Good films.
Yes.
Yeah, they were campy, but they were good, and it's very interesting. Anyone listening to this, you should watch them now. Those films are dark.
Yes,
they're much more dark than I thought they were.
Yes, honestly. Okay, X-Men is coming out.
Christopher Nolan's trilogy is.
Oh my God! All of his stuff.
Different. It's just different. And so when you talk about even Marvel, and you look at the first Iron Man, and then you take it all the way to Avengers Endgame, right? Yes. And you look at the trajectory of that. Is it nerdy? Sure. But
what I mean is Revenge of the Nerds. What I mean by Revenge of the Nerds is that the nerds made every movie of every character and every toy that they loved.
I can see that.
That's who ran Hollywood. If it was a game that they played in the arcade, they made a movie about it. If it's G.I. Joe, they made a movie about it. If it was they made a movie about their childhood.
Interesting.
Yes. And now I'm looking for the sci-fi people to come back so I can have Fifth Element again, because honestly, those from the late 70s to the early 90s, a little bit of 2000, we had all these sci-fi movies. Gattaca.
I want all of the genres back. I want sci-fi. I'm a big horror girly. Horror has had a good year.
Y'all been having a good 5 years, really.
Very true. And I hope we continue. I hope we continue. I want to see Sinners bring some a
Ah,
real tone.
yes.
Um,
Well, yeah, yeah.
but I
Of
mean,
course,
even
yeah.
if you weren't a Sinners fan,
I
Weapons
am.
was good. I mean, we horror has had some good times. Also want to see. I want to see rom coms. We
I
don't
need to see rom coms. Oh,
the romantic dramas, the Love Jones, right? I
yes.
mean, when you think about like another film that sometimes goes in my top four, it just depends on how I'm feeling. Um, it's not a rom com, but it is a drama. It's a romantic drama. Atonement.
Hmm.
Atonement was
I hadn't heard that
devastating.
in years. Wait a minute.
Mm.
What was in that?
That iconic green dress that Keira Knightley wore. What? What?
Girl,
It was
Atonement.
Atonement.
I'm
Like,
going to look that up.
oh yeah. 2007.
Mm.
Uh it was starring James McAvoy and Keira Knightley. And yeah, I highly, if you have not watched it,
See, that sounds
highly.
like the time that I was in love with The Spotless Mind. I know I never get the whole name right.
But yeah, I strongly recommend people watch it. It's a great watch. But I say it to say, like, we just had so many different, like, you just had such a wide variety. And I know that, the industry is changing, and I just hope that anyone that listens, I hope that you are encouraged to, make the film that you want to make, put the things out there that you want to put out there. We need it. We need it. We need more ideas than ever. Whether it's a vertical drama, whether it is something you put on YouTube, whether it's a TikTok, put it out there, because we need it. We
Okay.
absolutely need as many films as possible,
Okay.
because
I'm going to have you wrap it up like this. Okay. We're going to make you a futurist, a film industry, television futurist. Um,
features. What is that?
well, it basically is supposed to be a professional who can look at trends and
Oh, okay.
project. Yeah, a
I
futurist.
can do
I
that.
love that word. When I learned that word, I was
I nerd out over that stuff, so I could actually do that. That would be,
yes. Okay.
yeah.
So for 2026, here we are at the top of 2026.
Oh boy.
Global headlines aside, strictly focused on our industry's headline with Netflix and Paramount and Warner and Disney and Tubi now picking up all the YouTubers who have 1 million people and above. And, now we have microdramas on the rise, and platforms are starting to be, in the guilds and everything are prepping for this microdrama deluge. What do you see for 2026 for
Hmm.
Memphis and beyond?
Um, for Memphis, um, I see even more films being made. I know so many filmmakers that are working on uh they're working on films that are finding their path. My friend Sarah Fleming, Princeton,
Preston
um,
James.
yep, Princeton James, who just came back from Italy.
Yes.
Laura Jean, Chris, they just their film premiered at Venice this past year.
Oh, good.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, there are so many. I know Zaire. I've touched base with her a bit. Zaire Love. I know she's always cooking on something. So I honestly, and if anything, I went to the Like You Film Festival this past fall, and there's so many kids. They're like literal kids excited to make films. So I honestly think we're gonna see more of an uptick for Memphis making films. And I think we're gonna see an uptick of Memphis filmmakers figuring out ways to get their films out in the public.
Mhm.
Um
So regionally, including, everything from 50 being in Louisiana, Cat Williams got a studio standing up in Alabama. Of course, Georgia is going to be finding its way in the Carolinas. So, in the broader of Tennessee and Mississippi and all like that. So, what do you think for the region for 2026?
Regionally, I think
Hollywood is shifting.
Atlanta has been the Hollywood of the South, and I think we might see more of that love spread across the region. We know that Disney has taken some of their moves to Europe. And I'll say this, I don't think that Atlanta is not going to have the entertainment industry. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think that if you've gone to New Orleans, if you've gone to Louisiana, if you've gone to the Carolinas, you'll see that there are, in different parts of the South, you'll see that there are structures being built for filmmakers. So I do think that while historically we've known Atlanta is kind of the centerpiece for entertainment, I could honestly see that just being spread out a little bit more. And I'm always for that, because that means more opportunities for filmmakers in the South, which I'm always going to support. And I think nationally,
because they're building out east, some big, in remote areas, and the original 13 colonies. They're building these whole film cities like they did in Atlanta, like you said, all that.
I do think that I think that nationally I think we're going to see more and more filmmakers get creative on how they're going to get these films out and where they're going to place them. And I know that California is, I know they passed a big tax incentive recently, this past year, to try to encourage more filmmaking to come back to LA. But while I just think that more filmmakers are going to look less and less to the studios to get things out. I do see a rise in vertical dramas. I wouldn't be shocked. I know some streamers have fallen. The streamers that are still there, I wonder if we're going to see some creative modes to pick up some of these indie filmmakers content, these indie filmmakers films and stuff like that.
We even have one coming out of Memphis called Sweet Spire TV.
Oh, well, that's the second one, because remember Anwar started BKE. Yeah.
Yes, and of course, he took a job in Alabama, not too far from Cat Williams' studio.
Yep. So yeah, I think that I think from COVID standpoint, right? Like when we were in COVID, we all had to sit down and we all had to, we were on Clubhouse, we were on all these social media platforms, and social media was the way to kind of connect and everything like that. I do think that people are kind of leaning away from social media more now than they used to. But I think that it's because they are going to be connecting and working more in the real world. So I wouldn't be shocked if some of these streamers do kind of grow, even though we've seen some fall. And I would, some of the streamers that, you brought up Black and Sexy TV, love Black and Sexy TV. I also wanted to bring up Quelly.
Yes, our girls from Memphis.
Yep. So, I'm
Deshauna.
Deshauna.
She live in Baltimore, I think, in the DMV.
And then Isaac Hayes just announced that the
fan base.
Yeah.
Isaac Hayes the third.
Exactly, that they're working on. So, whenever there's a shift, people are going to find a way, right? And that's again, it's not to say that we shouldn't take precautions. It's not to say that however you feel. If you want to say something, you want to protest it, that's not to say that you shouldn't do that, but it's great to see people get creative, right? And when you think that a door is closing, or when you see a door closing, you got two more that are opening, right?
I like that.
And so we're always, especially the creators that are not used to being in those legacy, those legacy realms anyway, right? This is the perfect opportunity to get creative and put stuff out there. So that's honestly what I see. I'm cautiously optimistic. So.
I like that. Cautiously optimistic. Well, yeah. I got one last question for you. One last question. What do you see for yourself in 2026 as a creative?
So 2026, I see myself tapping. So one, finishing up some horror films that I have started that have been on my heart to finish. And I also see myself getting into drama, which is different. And I want to explain why that's a big thing. I'm sure some people are like, okay.
I'm definitely listening.
For me, my journey as a writer and just as an adult, like there was a healing journey that I went through. And so going from, either being happy or just mad, right? And not necessarily feeling the need to explain myself in the in-between, allowing that vulnerability to bleed on the page is big for me, because I'm kind of a closed off person. Understood. So I'm very excited to start dabbling in that, putting those vulnerabilities out there, expanding my characters, expanding the worlds. I'm very excited. So, and even like some of my horror pieces, the past 5-10 years have been exciting, right? But they've also been filled with a lot of stories. So I've been really excited to tap back into some of those stories that I put down and really develop those characters to even show like some of those scars that I've worked myself through. So, that's what we're working on.
That's beautiful. I tell you, it's inspiring me because, and turning 60 and having had a whole entire radio career and some other things, I've endeavored, to your point, to resurrect some things that I had put to the side or even just let it lay dormant. So I'm definitely inspired with Radio Girl Media and Film to do more podcasts, to do more media shows, to do radio, to do television. But I do want to dabble in microdramas. When you talk about getting into the dramas, I want to dabble in. I think that I would be really good. I would like to try, I should say.
You know what? I have also thought about it. My short film, Something's Off, dealt with this guy who ends up on a first date after COVID. His first date after COVID is he ends up with a serial killer.
Oh my goodness.
So
it's supposed to be a comedy, because it's like
it is a horror comedy. It's a horror comedy
because it made me laugh.
Oh, it's silly. It's got some silly moments for sure. But I have thought about, like, I have asked myself, could I do a micro drama, or could I do like a micro season and like kind of doing like where she is now?
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I've thought about that. So that might also be on my 2026. We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, if you need me for anything, you know where to find me.
Absolutely.
Well, as always, we gonna chit chat. I hope you've had fun tonight.
I did. I hope you had fun as well.
Yes, I did. And of course, for those who want to keep up with you, what's the best way?
I'm on all the socials. I'm on all the socials. My username is usually Fry Smalls, FRYSMALLS. And yeah, and also I will also drop that I am on the Art House Convergence board. So if you are involved with the film festivals, or if you're involved with independent theaters and you're not a member of Art House Convergence, hit me up, because
I need to hit you up. I'm not.
If you're interested,
Yes.
if you're interested in creating a micro cinema or something like that, like we have the type of programming that would be helpful to that. You don't have to have some multiplex theater. You can literally be, a small room, or even just be thinking about it, So our NDX conference is going to be in Chicago in July. So yeah, just wanted to shout that out, because I'm very proud of the organization and what we've been able to accomplish. So yeah, find me on the socials, y'all. I'm out there.
All right then. honey, we got to keep it saucy, because
got to.
Yes, because the secret sauce is you. All right. Thank y'all for checking us out. Be sure to keep up with my girl. She always be doing big things. I have to keep up with her. Art House, huh?
I'm trying to keep up with you.
Okay, we'll keep up with each other. How about that?
Exactly.
All right. Well, hug your boys for me, okay?
Okay. Say bye, Cameron.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.